Hi everybody, and welcome to another Friday's tutorial. And on this day I want to talk to you about my beloved Koh I Noor Pencil eraser. I totally love this pencil, and it's the only one that I sharpen with a pencil sharpener, because all my other pencils I sharpen with a knife. But for this one I always use the pencil sharpener, and here you see it. I always have a sharp eraser around. Now this is a Caran d'Ache graphite bar. It's 9B, very soft indeed. And I use that to make a smudge spot. And once I have that, I simply take a tissue, then I wrap this around my finger and I pick up the pigments. Then I start smudging the paper where my portrait is going to be. I did that on the left side too. Now what I also stumbled across is this Mono Zero Stabilo pencil eraser, and you can just press that out. It's new to me, so I do not have much experience yet, but it's great. It's for bigger parts. It's a bit more broad than the Koh I Noor pencil eraser, but I will give it a try. Will come back with you if I like it. I'm not sure yet. Then of course you have your blender sticks. You can have big ones or tiny ones, any kind. They have all kinds of measurements. And of course you can use your graphite pencils, as I did on my drawing. But also, what a lot of you don't know maybe, is the black color pencil, which is also a greasy substance, and they are very nice to combine. Now what is very, very important is that you use a smooth surface drawing paper. Now this is actually a marker kind of paper, but it's perfect for pencils too. But just make sure that your surface is smooth. So let's get started. Now the YouTube version of course is a little bit speeded up, but on my Patreon page you can always watch my drawings in real time. Should you like that or need that, then you can find those there. And what I'm starting out to do is I'm picking up the pigments with the tissue that I've wrapped around my finger, and I start smudging up my paper. But I do not go in there just randomly. I already put in some shadows that I need for drawing a second portrait here. And what you can see actually is, well, kind of like a ghost starting to appear on the paper. We'll put in a little bit more extra pigments. So I'm picking up a little bit more here. And I'm simply putting in some shadows and making this kind of ghost, which is an underlayment now of graphite powder or graphite substance. Once I have my shadows in place, I'm picking up my pencil, and you can choose to make a complete drawing with graphite pencils. I did this on the left side, and left side is a portrait that I picked up from my photo album. It's when I was very, very young, like 6-year-old. And on the right side I'm doing a spin-off of that face. Maybe draw in a little sister or something. But here I also will use the black color pencil. And the difference is that with the graphite, you get the grays like up to a certain value. But should you want to get in a little bit more black, darker values, more contrast, then you can also use the black color pencil. Extra. They work together perfectly, as I will demonstrate here. But should you want to keep your drawing a little bit more easy down, then simply only use graphite pencils. For the light tones you use, for instance, the 2B, and then for the darker values, the 4B, the 6B, the 8B, etc. Here that was the cat, sorry. Here I'm starting to put in the lines for where my eyes are going to be, where the nose entrances are, the side corners of the mouth, of course. And I simply put in a little bit of darkness very, very gradually. So I try to stay as calm as possible and building up the shadows very slowly, and then making my drawing darker and darker. And when I'm happy with some kind of shape, then I make it a little bit more darker. What I also try to do is to keep notice, and you can see it here on the right top, to keep notice of where the light is coming from. Now in this case it's coming from the right top. When the light is coming from the right top, I know that everything on the right of the little girls is lighter than what is on the left side of the girls, because there is where the shadow part is. Here underneath the chin, the hair is casting a shadow upon the neck of my right model. And here from the back of the head, some hairs are coming out. And what I also try to do is to keep my drawing as vivid as possible. So there has to be a little bit of movement. And I express this by making the hair go round a little bit wild. And maybe these two girls are just looking up because they got called, get inside or something, or would you like something to drink? And they're popping up their heads and looking up, and that's the movement that I wanted to draw. Here I'm putting in that special effect on the chin to get that 3D effect. And I want my drawings to be as 3D as possible, so that you can see the roundness of the nose and the lips. And I smudge things down with the blender stick and make these portraits as soft as possible, because there are very young girls, so I want a lot of smoothness. And I also want to draw in that left side, that ear, that also gives it a bit of roundness. And I put in some strings of hair in front of the face. So I'm not worried that I'm going through my face. I simply pull out some strings of hair, and immediately you get some kind of movement going on. Here I'm putting in some extra shadow that is underneath the tails of this model on the right. And well, I just try to get the direction of the hair going. And this is my blender stick again. I'm smoothing things out as much as possible, and that is why I'm using that very smooth and kind of hard paper that is very easy to smooth out. Now it's time for the pencil eraser. So once you have all your shadows in place as you want them, then you can start actually drawing with that pencil eraser. Now, as you can see, this works just perfectly. I can now bring out the highlights here on the forehead, for instance, but also I can draw out strings of hair because I totally smudged up my drawing and trying to get the smudge as smooth as possible on my smooth drawing paper. And I simply start working this out with that pencil eraser. I love the effect, and you can actually see your eraser as a kind of a white pastel if you want. And look how beautiful and how detailed you can put in the highlights, for instance in the eye, or some highlights around the lips, and I love that effect. Here I'm putting in some highlights from behind my model, so that it looks like the light is coming from behind a little bit, and in this way bringing out the shadow on the left side of the face. Now I think with smudging in, and like here for instance drawing out highlights here on top of the chin, you can actually start practicing drawing in 3D and getting vivid action in your portraits. I would love to hear in the comments below what you think of this way of drawing. Maybe you think it's well, not as good as you would like, or maybe you have some extra tips. I would also like to hear that. Or maybe you started trying it out and you love this technique and you love those pencil erasers. Just let me know in the comments below, because I'm very curious what this kind of a technique will bring you. Now what you also start to see is that on the left side the young Lineke was drawn with only the graphite pencils, while on the right side model, Lineke's friend, for instance, I will call her, that one was done with the graphite setup and then switched over to the black color pencil. What you can see is that I have a little bit more contrast on the right side model than I do on the left side model. So I could go in with the black color pencil on that left young Lineke, but for this tutorial I just left it for you to see. Well, that was my practice, and I hope you will give this a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and maybe you can check out my Patreon page. Support me there if you want. But till that time, I will see you again next Friday.